Hey guys, my name is Matsumiyo, and welcome to our episode of Sunday Mailbox. This is a video series where you, the viewer, can submit your gaming-related questions, and then I will give my humble opinion on them. To get the formalities out of the way real quick, if you would like to submit your own question that could be featured in an upcoming episode, you can do so by leaving a comment down below, or by sending me a Facebook or Twitter message. The first question for today comes from Bard, and it is, I was wondering how you feel about an attacking operator which would have an XM25 Airburst as his or her gadget. It would work the same way as it did in Battlefield 4 and do around 40 to 50 damage per shot. I feel like this would be an excellent gadget for taking care of anchors, but also have a great purpose in destroying gadgets behind doorways or windows. I'm not exactly sure if I'm on board with that idea. So if you're not aware of what he's referring to, there was a gadget back in Battlefield 4 called the Airburst, which essentially allowed you to take people out that were around corners with explosive damage. If you knew someone was behind a doorway 20 meters away, you could quickly calibrate the gadget for that 20 meters, and then as soon as you rattled off a couple of rounds, those rounds would burst, hence the name Airburst, and do splash damage against those targets that were around the doorway and take them out fairly reliably. Now this would definitely have some interesting implications if it was added into Rainbow Six Siege, and as you mentioned, would be a great way at taking care of anchors. Mira can be quite difficult to deal with if you're unprepared. If you don't have any way of opening up her window, or if you don't have gadgets to assist you with getting past it, like a smoke for example, you're gonna have a hard time pushing from that angle. Well, if you had an Airburst on your team, it'd be a lot more simplistic. You know that probably someone is directly behind it because you droned it, or because it's a Mira, there's usually always someone behind it. Have the Airburst lock onto that distance, fire a quick couple of shots quickly down range, it does that splash damage, and you've now taken out anyone that's directly behind it. That's a pretty crazy counter. If you suspect that someone's behind a deployable shield or the bar, well, you don't even really need to wait for them to pop their head out. Just switch on over to your gadget really quickly, calibrate the distance, and then take them out with this insane splash damage. I don't know about you guys, but getting taken out by someone who I can't even see and they can't even see me is not really the most enjoyable gameplay experience. Now, I know that some people will argue that that's the way that nades work. If they get a lucky nade off on you, they bounce it off the wall properly, they can take you down just like this. But I would argue that that requires a bit more skill and finesse. If you guys used the XM25 Airburst back in Battlefield 4, it didn't really require a whole lot of skill. It was literally point and click, and as long as you had a general idea of how this thing worked, you were gonna do some insane splash damage against anyone in that area. It was a lot easier than just throwing nades. I think the closest comparison that we have to one of these gadgets in Siege is Zofia with her concussive launcher. If you're minding your own business in the corner of the room, out of seemingly nowhere, you're getting stunned by her launcher. There was no indication, really no sound, all of a sudden you're now just concussed. Well, instead of having this stun effect, now imagine that you're taking a significant amount of damage, and then half a second later, out of seemingly nowhere, you're dead. That doesn't sound like the most enjoyable experience. And so all in all, it's for that very reason why I don't think that this would be the best addition into Rainbow Six Siege. I know that you could argue that this is kind of the way that it works with Kappa Tau, and that actually might be one reason why it's not as bad in this game, because of the one-shot headshot mechanic. If you round the corner with this launcher out, and someone is staring directly at you with their primary weapon, it doesn't matter how much splash damage you're gonna do against them, they're gonna deal a lot more damage with that one-shot headshot mechanic and take you out practically instantaneously. Like, they're gonna have the advantage there. In the long run though, I feel like this would just lead to a lot of frustration. People are gonna know when to use this and where to use it, and getting taken out by something that you can't even see or know that it's coming doesn't sound all that enjoyable, but of course that is just my 2 cents. The next question comes from John, and it is, what do you think about the war of attrition in Battlefield 5? I feel like it could lead to frustrating moments where you don't have enough ammo or can't find support players to give it to you. You are definitely not alone with this. A lot of people have been bringing up this concern lately, and rightfully so. If you look back at pretty much every recent Battlefield game, one big problem they've always had is that support players rarely actually drop their ammo boxes reliably. Now, the reason why I'm not too worried about this new mechanic is that while yes, everyone when they spawn on in, according to the developers of Battlefield 5, you are going to have less rounds at your disposal. But that means everyone, even the support players I'm imagining, are gonna have less rounds. If we look back at Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4, they've always had an insane amount of ammo at their disposal as a support player. The reason why you can usually find a lot of health bags scattered around the map is because everyone needs health. A medic is going to take damage at some point, and so of course they're gonna drop that down on the ground. As a support player though, there's very few moments, unless you're doing incredibly well, where you run out of all of your rounds. You never have that selfish reminder, oh yeah, I need to plop this down so I can help out my teammates and also resupply for myself. In Battlefield 5 though, you should have that constant reminder. And so my hope is with this new system and mechanic is that first of all, this will make the support class a lot more desirable. In past Battlefield games, yes, it's nice to get resupplied every once in a while, but a lot of times most people are going to gravitate on over towards the medic class because they just provide a lot more benefit to your team. Being able to revive and heal your teammates is incredibly strong. Having a couple extra rounds or resupplying is nice, but I just don't feel like it's on the same level as healing and reviving. Now that people are going to need a lot more ammo though, that's going to greatly incentivize the role of the support player and make them much more desirable. The other thing I'm hopeful for is that this new system will condition players to drop their ammo boxes and it will just become second nature. Just like in Battlefield 4 when I'm playing as the assault class, I'm going to be dropping down health all over the place because eventually I'm going to need it. That's going to be kind of the same thing that I think is going to happen with Battlefield 5. The next question comes from Brady and it is, what do you think about getting rid of neck shots in Rainbow Six Siege? It's the most frustrating thing when you shoot someone in the head and it counts as a neck shot. So the reason why I selected this question today is I feel like there's a lot of confusion around neck shots because a lot of people don't realize that a neck shot counts as a headshot. A long time ago, when the game was in its early stages where they're making a lot of changes, this was one big adjustment that they made where neck shots now count as headshots. Now, Ubisoft's reason for doing this is that back then there was a lot of complaints about poor hit registration. Of course, it couldn't be the netcode. It was definitely the netcode, but one of the things that they came up with is that there was poor visual feedback. It looked like you were hitting them in the head, but it was actually the neck. And so to give you a better visual feedback, they just basically said that if you hit them in the neck or the head, you're gonna get that one-shot kill. And I believe that that is the same today, unless they've made some change along the way that I just haven't seen any patch notes. That should be the way that it still functions. And so yeah, I just wanted to answer this question to give a brief little history lesson, but also to hopefully clear up any confusion around the neck shot and headshot mechanics. The next question is, do you feel like DICE is moving towards popular games like Fortnite because of the building aspects? I don't think that's the case whatsoever here. I feel like people are putting too much stock into the success of Fortnite, and they think that any game that's coming out is trying to copy that success. This game has only really been popular for a couple of months. I think it came out and it really got popular back in winter of 2017, so like 6 months ago. Battlefield 5 has been in development for years. This fortification system that I'm working on, I'm sure has been in development from the very beginning. You can't just slap this into a game like Battlefield and just call it good. Like, it's gonna feel clunky, it's gonna feel like a mess. And while we haven't seen any gameplay, maybe it is atrocious, I just don't see them changing their vision, completely changing their game, just so they can kind of have some sort of resemblance to Fortnite's. I feel like this criticism is also kind of getting out of hands. When a game gets announced and they show gameplay, like Call of Duty for example, people immediately said that they were just trying to copy Fortnite because the colors looked bright and vibrant. Seriously? The color palette looked bright and vibrant? All of a sudden that makes that a Fortnite clone? That seems like we're taking it to the extreme. And well, who knows? Maybe that's exactly what they're going for. Maybe they're seeing the success of Fortnite and they're completely changing the vision of what they had for their game. I just highly doubt it, especially when it comes to integral mechanics like a fortification system. The next question is, do you think that Dokkaebi will be overpowered in the upcoming meta because of the amount of cameras on defense and being a counter to Alibi? Well, I definitely think that she's going to see some more play with this upcoming season, absolutely, but I don't think that all of a sudden is going to make her overpowered. They're not increasing her damage, they're not doing anything to her gadget, at least to my knowledge. The only thing that's changing is that new operators rely on cameras with Maestro, and if she calls Alibi, of course her holograms are not going to have a cell phone, and so they're not going to make any noise. And so yes, she is going to be a counter to them, but that doesn't make her overpowered. That just means that they're the counter. This is the way that it always works when new operators come out. You wouldn't say that Thatcher is overpowered because he's able to deal with goo mines and elemines. He counters them, but that doesn't make him all of a sudden one of the best operators to choose. He's just a little bit more viable because of that, if that is the meta. If Alibi and Maestro become incredibly popular and everyone uses them the entire season and they become the next, Finka and Lion, I don't think that's going to be the case, then yeah, we're going to see a lot more Dokkaebi. But that doesn't mean that she's too strong. This is probably a better indication that the two new operators are too powerful. Now, once again, I don't think that's going to be the case with Alibi and Maestro, but if it feels like you're required to play as a specific operator, it feels like you need to counter the new operators if you want to be successful, then that's not because the operator that you're playing is too strong. Usually, it's because maybe they need to take a look at those two new ops and tone down their influence so it doesn't feel like that operator is a requirement. And so all in all, I'm not worried about this whatsoever. I do think that Dokkaebi is going to see more play because there are going to be a lot more cameras on the map, but I don't think that's all of a sudden going to make her a must pick. But yeah, guys, that is about it for today's episode of Sunday Mailbox. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you thought about what we discussed in today's video. Would you love to have an XM25 Airburst introduced into Rainbow Six Siege? Do you think that Dokkaebi is going to be a must pick? Let me know down below in the comments. As always, if you would like to submit your own question for an upcoming episode, you can also leave a comment or by sending me a Facebook or Twitter message. But until tomorrow, guys, have a good one and take it easy.